Now we'll take you back to this breaking news. Legendary wrestler and star Hulk Hogan has died. That's according to the WWE. The star of the ring, big and small screens, was 71 years old. Let's bring in host and fight announcer Curran Bhatia for much more on this. Curran, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you walk us through Hulk Hogan's legacy here, and how did he climb the ranks through the WWE to be the big star he turned out to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace to Hulk Hogan, the legend, of course. And Hulk Hogan was really synonymous with World Wrestling Entertainment, right? WWE, as it was known originally, WWF. He also fought in WCW. And I think the reason that Hulk Hogan resonated with so many fans is that he really was a larger than life personality. He had all the catchphrases, "What you gonna do, brother?" and the Hulkamania persona. And I think that really resonated with the fan base. And Hulk Hogan was a trailblazer, right? He took wrestling from back rooms and, smoky arenas to the mainstream, right? Mainstream television, mainstream networks. And I think that's because his persona, the Hulkamania, the Hulkamaniacs, right? They all rallied around this guy for everything he brought. And so I think he was a pioneer in his field. He was a six-time champion in WWE. He fought the likes of Andre the Giant, The Rock, and so many others. And I think that's really what skyrocketed him. The fact that people could relate to Hulk Hogan, and certainly a legend in the sport of wrestling.
Yeah, it's hard to forget his many gimmicks, too, especially when he walks into the ring and then rips his shirt off. Like, you expect that from Hulk Hogan. But you talk about, all of the things that he's able to do, his gimmicks when he comes into the ring. And then the fact that he, for some reason, just stayed on. His name, his personality, his legacy, it just stayed on even when he left WWE and went to WCW. So how did his presence in the ring basically help his brand grow to what it is and what we know of it as today?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it right there, the longevity of it all, right? And the fact that he was able to WWF, WWE, WCW, and just keep going. And also, as we know in wrestling entertainment, there's different character arcs that take place. You got the villain arc, the heel turn, all of that. And so I think the fact that Hogan was such a fan favorite, but then able to tap into a little bit of that heel turn as well, and just continuing to reinvent himself for so many years. And I think, like I said before, he was really synonymous with WWE and that rise. And I think it was about getting in there during that growth period, and riding that wave into making World Wrestling into what it is now. And also part of it too is then he crossed over into the mainstream, and that was because of reality shows like Hogan Knows Best, where we got to meet his family. And there was an authenticity to him, right? Real world, problems happening to him and his family. And I think that just enhanced that connection he had with his fans and the audience of, this is a real authentic person who we're seeing in wrestling, but now you're seeing him a little bit outside of the ring. And that crossover appeal, also being in many movies and just being part of American culture, being a part of that fabric. That's really his legacy.
Yeah, and I think there's so many wrestlers today who talk about why they went into wrestling, and they say it's because of Hulk Hogan, whether they're wrestlers with the WWE or with other companies. So what legacy do you think he leaves behind?
Yeah, I think it's that pioneer, that trailblazer, and I think it was like we've been saying here, connecting with the audience in a way it wasn't done before. And you mentioned other wrestlers that came along later. And so if you look at very popular wrestlers like The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, all of them, what they were able to do was connect with the fan base, right? And you're seeing that now even in modern wrestling. But really, Hulk Hogan was that pioneer to not only take it from those small ballrooms and those smoky arenas, but make it a national sport, a global sport, and make it into this global phenomenon that it became. And so you had those fans internationally, and that really is his legacy, that so many other wrestlers followed on it, and that wouldn't have been possible without the work of Hulk Hogan. And to your point, it was because he was able to have that longevity and stay connected with the fans. And so, it was a complicated legacy, but definitely an influential one. And we know later on, had different legal issues. He of course dipped his toes into politics in terms of, picking one side or the other and making his presence known in that way as well. So definitely an influential figure in the world of wrestling, and then someone who transcended sports into just the mainstream culture.
Yeah, and Curran, I think there's so many different companies now that, dabble with wrestling. And for some reason, WWE has stayed on as the dominant figure when it comes to the wrestling industry. How much do you think Hulk Hogan played into that?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it because if you look at any combat sport, right? For example, if you look at boxing, right? One of the issues that was plaguing boxing for a long time was the fragmented nature of the sport. Now, if you look at mixed martial arts, you could say a large portion of competitors are under the UFC umbrella. If you're under one umbrella, you can make essentially the best fight the best. That can be difficult if there's many different promoters and networks. And if you look at what WWE did, right, taking different promoters, putting everything together under one umbrella, and that way you are getting that connection with the fans because you're able to watch your favorite fighter compete against the other great fighters. And so that was something Hulk Hogan was able to do, right? And obviously we mentioned six-time champion. And so, you know, that was really it. It's bringing it all together, getting the best, competing against the best. And of course, in WWE, there's the storytelling element, right? It's not just what you do in the ring, but of course, connecting with the fans. And it really was that persona. You mentioned ripping the shirt off and the catchphrases. And so because WWE was able to become this national brand and this global brand that had, you know, that you were able to see the same fighters every week, you were able to see them compete. And that just continues that longevity that we've been talking about. And so it was about staying active, resonating with the audience, and being authentic.
Yeah, you cannot think of wrestling without thinking of Hulk Hogan. Curran, Bhatia,
Correct.
thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.